working on the shadows and the lights on the flamingo. So the first thing, I'm going to select the main flamingo and I will add the hue and saturation, and Photoshop will automatically make it a clip mask. Now I want to change the color a bit. I will make the hue -10 or 7, I think is good. I will select the flamingo again and add levels this time, and Photoshop automatically made it a clip mask. I will put it over the hue and saturation, and I'm moving this handle. Make sure that you're following my settings. I'm just trying to see what will work for me. Okay, like this is good. So these adjustment effects, they already have the mask on them. We can remove from the places that we don't want. So I'm going to select this mask and go over the brush tool. I'm using the black color. Now I can remove this effect from the places that I don't want. If we check the light source of this picture, it's coming from the left side over here. We are going to do the light and the shadow according to the light source. So basically, this left side will have the light, and the right side, which is this place, will have the shadow. Let's start with this one, with the back of the flamingo, and I'm going to paint over it. By the way guys, I'm using the black color on the layer mask that we have on this level effect. And the opacity is 25. I'll paint slowly over it, just to make this light. This is the first step for making lights and shadows. We are going to refine it and make it much better. Okay, I'll make the size a bit bigger and paint over here. Actually, I will undo it. Command Z. Now let's move to the legs, and we are going to make the light over them. I'll make the size of the brush smaller, and you are going to remove the level effect on these legs to make the light. Okay. We accidentally paint over the foot. I'm going to Command Z to undo it. Let's paint a bit on this leg as well. Okay, let's hide the effect and see what we have done. Great, so much different, and we are going to make this much better. Okay, I will go back to the levels and make sure that you are selecting the layer mask. Go to the brush, make it a bit bigger. Press X to change the color from black to white. Now I'm going to bring some of the effect back to this area. I'll press X again to make it black, and I will remove some of the effect, which is the level effect, from this area to make it brighter. Okay, we are good like now. To enhance the shadows and the lights, we are going to create two empty layers over the main flamingo. Make sure you select the main flamingo and create your layer. Photoshop will automatically clip mask it to the flamingo. I will name this shadow, and I will create another one, name it light. I'm going to select both of them and put it over everything else. And now you will use the brush tool to enhance the shadows and the light. We are going to start with the lights. I want my lights to be under the shadows. I'm going to use this layer that I named shadow, but later I'm going to rename it to the light. I'll change their name. Now I'm using the brush tool and the white color. Change the blending mode for the shadows to the overlay. And we are going to change the opacity for the brush. I think we will make it somewhere around 5 or 4. 4 is good. And now we will paint carefully over this place because we want this place to have light. If you check the source of the light should hit this place or this area of flamingo. That's why I'm going to increase the light of this area. So I'm trying to add the light to the left side of the flamingo. as the light source is from the left. Depending on my understanding of the light, this area of the flamingo neck will get more light. That's why I'm increasing the opacity of the brush, and I will add more light to this area. Okay, let's continue creating our light on the head as well. I'll keep it like this for the light, and we are going to add the shadows. One area that we need to add the shadow is this area where the flamingo is behind the building. We need some of the shadow. Let me rename these layers. I will name this light, and the above one will be shadow. Select the shadow, change the color to black, and we are going to paint carefully over this place. Let's change the blending mode to the overlay, and then we are going to increase the opacity of the brush to be 11 or 10. And now we will change the color. I'm going to get the color from this area, dark red, and now we can paint over here. Don't worry if you paint more than you should, because we are going to use the mask layers to remove it. So I'm just going to paint over here. So as we say, the closer the darker, and the more far away the lighter. As you can see, our shadow is too much here. I'm going to use the mask layer to remove it. Before I do that, I'm going to increase the size of the brush and paint more over here. So when we are removing it, we will have more control over the shadow. Let's add a mask layer to our layer. Make sure that the mask layer is selected and the color of the brush is black. Decrease the opacity to 5, and now we can remove some of the shadow. Okay, like this is good for now. Let's select the shadow layer again, and I'm going to make more shadows on this area. Make sure that the layer is selected and paint over here. Then I'm going to go ahead and make the shadow on the legs. Make the size of the brush smaller and paint over it like this. Okay, I think we are good like this, but I need to improve the lights. I'm going to go back to the lights and add more light to the flamingo. Make sure you are using the white color. And then you are going to paint over the flamingo. I will add some light to this area. Let's keep it like this for now. I'm going to go to the pool that we have here. As you can see, it's very bright and obvious. I need to add some shadow to it. I will make a new layer over the pool. Press on the Option or Alt and click on it to clip mask. Name it Shadows and the Lights. Then you are going to use the brush tool to paint the black over it. Make sure you are using the black. And I'm going to paint the black over it just to reduce the light that we have on this pool. I think I add too much black to this area. I'm going to add the mask to it, and I will remove some of the black. The opacity of the brush is 5, so we are removing very little bit from it. We are good like this. The next thing we are going to do is to add the shadow to this building. As you can see, it is too bright. We need to add some of the shadow and also the shadow of the flamingo on the building. But before I do that, I want to make some arrangement. I'm going to select every layer that is related to the main flamingo, and I'm going to group them all together. Now I select all of them, Command G to group them. And I will name it Main Flamingo. or flamingo mane. Perfect, now this is done. Let's go back to the main building and I'm going to add levels to it. Click on it, go to the adjustment effects, and you're going to add levels. Make sure that you clip mask it. I'm going to use the Option or Alt and click on it. And now I'm going to make it darker, just like this. I will make it very dark, and then later you're going to use the layer mask, and with the paint tool you're going to bring back some of the lights. So make sure you have something similar to this one. Copy my settings. And as you know that these adjustment effects, they already have the mask on them. I'll just make sure that I'm selecting the mask, and then I'll choose the brush tool and the black color. Now we will remove this effect from any area that we want. Let me increase the size of the opacity. Make it 11 and see how it will work. I think it's too much. Command Z and bring it back to 4. Okay guys, I'm using these settings of the brush, and now I'll roughly paint the shadow of the flamingo in this building. So I didn't like this one. I'll Command Z and I'll start all over again from here, and I'm guessing that the shadow of the flamingo will be something like this. Guys, we are going to work a lot on this building to create the shadow of the flamingo on it. And as you know, I'm using the brush tool to remove the levels that we just added to this building. I'm going to bring a lot of light to this side of the building. Okay, just like this, because this area is not affected by the shadow of the flamingo. We still need to work on this building. I'm going to bring some of the light to this area. I'll decrease the opacity to 1. And I'm going to carefully paint the light on this wall. Make sure that you're keeping the shadow of the flamingo and you're not bringing a lot of light to that area. Okay, we still need to work on this. I'm going to add some of the light to this shadow to make it a bit less harsh. So just paint over it like this. But then you have to make sure that you have more light in this side, because the flamingo is not blocking it. I think we need more light to this side. I'll increase the opacity, make it 3, and paint over it to remove the shadow from it. Okay, that's good. Now we need some of the shadow of the flamingo on the ground as well. I will go to the ground shadow that we created earlier, and I'm going to paint black on it like this. So I'm just trying to make the flamingo shadow on the earth. Okay, now if we go hide it, we will see the change that we made. Yes, much better. This is good, but I need to work more on the building and the shadow. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add some of the light to the edges of the building. I'll make the size of the brush smaller, and make sure you choose the level that you created over the main building. And I'm going to paint over it like this, just to bring some of the bouncing light on the edges. Okay, we are good now. Let's make the brush bigger, and I'm going to work more on the overall shadow on the building, because it doesn't look realistic at all. And now I'm going to make the size of the brush bigger. Not like this, a bit smaller. Okay, that's good. I'm using the opacity of 3 to remove some of the shadow from the building. So I want a lot of light in this side and some of the shadow of the flamingo in the other side. Photo montage is like real painting. You should understand the lights and the shadows to make a good painting. Okay, let's remove a bit more from this side. And I think I'll keep it like this for now. Maybe later we'll come back to this wall and work more on it. But for now, I'm going to duplicate this main flamingo. Right click on it to duplicate it, or you can use Command J. And we will name this secondary flamingo. Make sure you are clicking on the folder and then click one of the handles. Then you can move it like this. I'll make it smaller. And we want to move it behind this second building. We need to move it on the layers as well to the second building. Make it even more smaller. We need to flip it, right click on it and flip horizontally. Now we need to move this flamingo on the other crossing road that we have over here. I will make sure that it is sitting there. Then I'm going to scale it down. And also I'm going to use the rotation tool, just like this. Because we need the variation, we don't need them to be the same. I'll fit it like this for now, and then we will remove the legs and the tail of the flamingo. Before we do that, I'm going to remove the levels and the effects that we have on this flamingo, because we don't need the same effect. We are going to create some special one for this flamingo. Now open the folder and we are going to remove these levels and hue and saturation. Remove this level. Actually, hue and saturation, leave it there. We need only to remove the levels. Okay. Now I'm going to close this one and then right click on it, convert it to smart object. Now we need to add the layer mask to it to remove the legs and the tail. Now we will choose the brush tool. Make sure that you're selecting the layer mask, not the layer itself. And then with the brush, make it smaller, make the opacity 100. And you are going to paint it like this to remove it. As you already know with the layer mask, when you paint black, it will remove. It looks very good now. I need to rotate it a bit more. Make sure you are selecting the flamingo and rotate it just like this. It's good. Now the next thing, we are going to add a level effect. I'll use the adjustment filters, choose level, press on the option or alt and click on it to clip mask it to the flamingo. Just like this. And now we will bring down the lights, make it a bit darker. Just like this. And then we are going to use the brush tool to paint our light. Make sure that the layer mask is selected and paint black over it to remove the effect. So the light is coming from that side, that's why we will have a lot of light on this part of the neck. I made the opacity of the brush 27. Now I'm going to paint the light over the back of the flamingo, which is this area. I will add some of the light to this area of the head. Let's zoom out and see. As you can see, we have the parts of the legs and some of the part of the head removed. We're going to work on that more. But now let's finish the lighting. I will add some more light to the back. this area. Now I want to rotate this flamingo a bit more. I want the distance between the head and the street to be more. Make sure you're selecting the flamingo layer and rotate it like this. I am going to play with the rotation and the size until I see something that I like. Okay, rotate it like this and move it over here. We will make it a bit smaller and move it. I think like this is good. Let's go to the mask layer and I'm going to remove the legs again. Make sure you are using the black color and make the opacity full to remove. Now I'll choose the move tool and I will use the arrow keys to fit it best in the street. Let's get close and see. We have removed some of the head, so I'm going to bring it back. Make sure you are selecting the mask and we are going to use the white to paint over it. Press X to exchange between white and black. So like this we brought back the head. Now I'm going to press X again to make it black and I'm going to remove this. Okay, I think we are good now. But because we played with the position and the size of the flamingo, the leveled layer that we created over it to create our light and shadow is messed up. So I'm going to select it. I will use the black color on the brush tool to remove it. But it is too harsh. I'll Ctrl Z and bring the opacity down. And then you are going to paint over it again. Make sure you are selecting the mask and we will remove it like this. Okay, we are good, but I'm going to bring some of the shadow to the areas that are behind the building. So I will use the brush tool, make sure that the layer mask is selected. This is what we have for now. I will make the color white and I will paint over it to bring back the effect. And then I'm going to make the color black and carefully make the light or remove the effect from here, which will make the light. And now go to the flamingo. I will rename it to the flamingo 2. And then you will create a layer over it and you will name it shadow. Make sure that the layer is masked to the flamingo. We will name it shadow. Change the blending mode to the overlay. And then we are going to use the brush tool, but first I'm going to get my color from the flamingo, dark red, and we are going to paint the areas that are behind the building, these areas. We don't want it to be this harsh. I will Ctrl Z, and now we will carefully paint, bring down the opacity to 4, and I will paint over here. I will increase the opacity again and paint it like this. Okay, I'll paint here as well, make some shadow. And if we zoom out, we have something like this. I think we are good now. The next thing, we are going to work on our third flamingo. So I'm going to select my flamingo, the third one, which is this one. I will name it third flamingo. And we are going to fit it behind this tree. I'm going to flip it horizontally, right click on it, and flip it like this. I will fit it here. It's good like this. Let's zoom out and see how it looked like. Now I will add hue and saturation to this flamingo so we can match the color to the other flamingos. I will change it like this. Make sure that you're clipping it to this flamingo only. Let me finish playing with these settings and I'm going to clip it to this flamingo. Press on the Alt and click on this hue and saturation to clip it to this flamingo like this. And now we can continue playing with the color. Okay, these settings are good. I'm going to use the brush tool to remove some of the hue and saturation from the head. Okay, we are good like this. And now we will add a layer to add the shadows to it. So a new layer, clip mask it like this, and name it shadow. So we're going to paint black or dark red. Press I to bring the eye drop and you will get the color from this area. I'll make it a bit darker. And now go to the brush tool. We are going to paint over it like this. But we need to change the blending mode to the multiply later. Okay, let's change the blending mode to the multiply. Overlay is too harsh, we are going to change it to multiply. As you can see, the shadow is still too dark. I'm going to make a mask on this layer. And I will use the paint tool with the black color and I will remove it a bit like this. Perfect, we are good like this. Now I'm going to group all of the layers that related to this flamingo. I'll come over the layers, this one and these two, Command G to group them, and I will name it, name it Flamingo 3. And now I want to rotate everything together. I'll make sure that I'm selecting the group on the layer panel and click on one of the handles. Now we can rotate it like this. Now double click on it to bring back the move tool, and I'm going to use the arrow keys just to fit it perfectly there. Okay, we are done. Now the building, we need to fix some of the stuff here. One of the things is to blur the edges. And I'm going to use the blur tool, which is here. Click and hold. You will have the blur tool. Zoom in and make sure you are selecting the main building. I'll bring the strength to 12 for the blur tool. And we are going to paint over it and blur it like this. We want these edges to be a bit blurry, not very sharp. Okay guys, I think we are good like this. One last thing I want to do, I will go to the brush tool and select the level we have on the building. Increase the size of the brush and the opacity. Make sure the mask is selected, and now we will remove some of the shadow on this building. It means we will add more light to this building. Okay guys, this will be the end of this lesson. Hope you enjoyed and learned something new. In the next lesson, you are going to enhance the shadows, lights, and the colors. I'll see you there. Bye bye.